Okay, welcome everyone. Friday drop-in meditation. Alan here. As usual, we'll do our normal routine of a session of mindfulness meditation, mainly using the breath, and then we'll do a analytical meditation on a particular topic. So I was just listening to Alan Wallace of the teachings that he gave in Balmain last year. He actually did a whole session just on space of the mind, watching the space of the mind, which is quite interesting. It's the idea of just looking at what comes, he calls it the movement of things in the space of the mind. So there's the mind, which you can just think of like a mirror, and then whatever we experience is something that comes into that space, a bit like a stage or a screen, I suppose. So the breath is happening. We use our breath as the object. It's happening within the space of our mind, our awareness of what's happening. And then he says, well, what's the mind? What is this space? What is this space? So he says, sometimes it's easy to do the practice with our eyes open so that we don't think that we're looking, that the mind is actually a little black thing behind the eyes. So that's part of the practice. He says, where is this space? So we look, if we can find actually the mind or the space, we'll call it the space of the mind, in any particular place of the body, any particular size or colour. He says if it's a black space, then everything would be coloured by that colour. Everything that comes into the mind would be colour, would be that colour. Is there any limits to it? Can we sort of put boundaries around the space? So it's just basically a practice asking ourselves, what is this space in which things come into? The breath is what we start off with. We always start off with the breathing. And then if the breath is calm and the mind is reasonably calm, we can think of the breath is happening within the space of the mind. There's this space, and then the breath is part of that. And as the space quietens, the stillness of the mind quietens, the space becomes more obvious. We can actually notice that there is a breath happening within space. And then we can actually bring in a thought. Sometimes it's easy to consciously bring a thought into the space of the mind rather than just wait for something to come in, because we've got control if we bring in a thought. And then we watch the thought come into the space of the mind, and then we watch the thought go back into the space of the mind, dissolve back. So we'll start off with the breath, and then we'll have the option, I'll give you the option of using this practice of just watching the space of the mind, what comes into the mind, and what is the space. Okay, let's get comfortable. Just getting our mind, getting ourselves into our internal world, watching what's happening inside. Have a sense of letting go what happened this morning. The busy outside world, we can let go. The plans for the rest of the day, we can let go. Things that we feel we have to worry about, we can let go. Just coming into our present moment. A few moments to just reflect on our good fortune. Great opportunity to just sit together, take care of our mind, looking after our mind, being kind to our mind. And our practice is done not just for our own benefit, but to benefit those around us, ultimately to benefit all living beings. Then starting with the body, just making sure we're comfortable. The body's relaxed, our mind can be more easily relaxed. Just checking our balance, we're evenly spread, the floor or the chair. Checking the upper body, the back reasonably straight, shoulders just sitting comfortably. The eyes can be closed or just gently open, gazing ahead, letting in some light. Checking the muscles around the face and the eyes. Feeling the weight of the body, how gravity gently pulls the body into the earth. And relinquishing all control, letting go. With each out breath, we can feel we are letting go. Breathing out all the tension in the body, tension in the mind. And then gradually paying more attention to the whole breath, how the breath enters and leaves the body. Just without any control, just watching as a bystander the movement of the breath in the body. Using a convenient point to focus on the breath, the abdomen, rising and falling. Feeling the air at the nostrils, entering, leaving the body. the whole movement of the body with the breath. Once we find that place that's so comfortable to watch the breath, just rest our mind there. Come to rest. Then to monitor what we're doing, part of the mind is just checking in now and again, see whether it's still on the object of the breath, or we've been distracted by thoughts, quality control. Thoughts are just thoughts, we just notice them, and then gently let go, and come back to the breath. Staying with the breath, and once we're there on the breath, we don't have to try too hard. Just watch the movement of the breath. Full flow of the in-breath, full flow of the out-breath. The breath is just a movement within the space of the mind. As the mind quietens, we can actually become aware of the space of the mind. Perhaps watch the breath from the space of the mind, quietness, stillness of the mind. Gradually giving more attention to that space of the mind. Can we see the space of the mind? Can we know where it is? Is it behind the eyes, in the brain? To experience the space of the mind, just deliberately bring a thought into the mind. Watch the thought arise in the mind, the space of the mind, and then dissolve back into the space of the mind. Are there any boundaries around the space of the mind? Any physical limits? Whatever comes into the mind, any thoughts, sounds, the breath, their movements in the space of the mind. Watch them from the space of the mind, the still space of the mind. Just relax, have a stretch if you need. Okay, so second practice I've chosen is one that I heard Geshe Zopa give once up in the Blue Mountains when he was teaching up there. Geshe Zopa, very good, wonderful teacher, young monk. And it's called Purifying Our View of Ourselves by Accepting Our Faults. So it's kind of being kind to ourselves, looking at our positive qualities, accepting that we have lots of positive qualities. And he says this is, of course, quite difficult for Westerners sometimes. We're more concerned with the faults. So we spend quite a bit of time on that. Just start recalling even actions we can recall that we've done, like helping others who are sick, voluntary work, being generous with our time or money, resources. So thinking of specific instances and then saying, okay, so obviously there are some roots of virtue there. There's some good ground, good foundation. We also look at the human body, how wonderful it is that we've got it. And then we look at the faults, except that we do have faults, that we're not enlightened yet. But he says, blame the delusions, not yourself. Don't sort of identify the faults with who we are. This is, he says, the main problem when we sort of grasp at this, the defects and think that they're permanent and they're part of us. So he's got quite good techniques to just to realise that these faults are impermanent and they have no foundation. His Holiness Dalai Lama often points out very clearly that the negativities are based on ignorance, thinking that we're some self-existent being that has to be looked after and held on to. It's all based on ignorance and delusion. So once we realise that, then that ignorance and delusion gradually just crumbles, and we can actually completely eliminate all the ignorance and delusions. So he says this is really important to do these both things, accepting our virtues, our positive, and the faults, and realizing the faults can be overcome and changed. So it's just, and then the last bit is really nice. He says, just think of every aspect of your life, where we live, our pets, our garden, our friends, partners, and think that it's just right. Okay, there's nothing needs to be fixed. It's just right. We can. So this idea of satisfaction and contentedness. So just on that, Lama Yeshe puts it really well. He said, all the problems of the world can be traced to a feeling of not being whole. So many of our problems arise because we feel we're cut off from something we need. We don't feel whole, and therefore we turn expectantly towards other people for the qualities we imagine missing in ourselves. All the problems of the world, from one person's anxiety to warfare between nations, can be traced to this feeling of not being whole. You're responsible for your own problems. just as you're responsible for your own liberation and enlightenment. Okay, so this practice is actually really dealing with that feeling of not being whole. So actually seeing that actually we are whole and things are good. So this actually, we've got the foundations. We've got this Buddha nature, part of it. Buddha nature means that we have Buddha potential. Just like the Buddha, he was a human being with faults like us. He became enlightened. So we've got that same potential. All right, so let's have a go at this one by Geshe-Zopa. Get comfortable. Now we come back into our inner world, back to the breath for a few moments. Back to that spacious stillness of the mind. So we begin our practice on purifying our view of ourselves while accepting our faults by starting with ourselves, the positive aspects of ourselves, recalling some virtuous actions, good deeds we've done in the past. It could have been the distant past, as childhood, right up to now, some examples. Some help we gave to friends or strangers. Perhaps visiting people who are sick, or old. Just giving our time and concern. Actions we've done with positive motion, positive motivation, doing voluntary work, offering our skills, energy, time. Giving ourselves credit for acts of kindness, generosity, being positively motivated, well-intentioned. Our acts being appreciated by those who we're helping. We do have these qualities. We have compassion, wisdom, generosity, and patience. It can be developed, but we have the seeds, the basis of that. Noticing any resistance we have to giving ourselves credit for our good deeds, just gently pushing past that. If we see the good in ourselves, it helps to see the good in others. Just also briefly appreciating that there are causes for our qualities, causes for our human body that we have. We've created those positive causes. Have the body of a human, the brain of a human. A human being who's born in a safe place, with all the requirements we need: food, shelter, clothing. Having met the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings, we have an interest. There are causes for this, created in previous lives. Our spiritual friends we've met, rejoice in our good fortune. Good fortune based on previous good causes, previous good actions. Also rejoice in the good fortune of our fellow practitioners, our spiritual friends, Dharma friends. Our fellow travellers. So while we rejoice in our positive qualities, also accept that we have faults, make mistakes. We're not yet enlightened. we're not satisfied with ourselves, we blame not ourselves, but the delusions, the anger, the desire, impatience. The ignorant mind is the fault, not ourselves. The awakening, the moment of revelation, is to see the ignorant mind as the hallucination. Mind that grasps itself, sees the self more important than others. We see the faults and reject them. There's nothing out there to blame. We just deal with the faults. The faults don't harm our Buddha nature. So we see the clean, clear mind is already there, like the sky, beyond the clouds, always there. Beyond illusions, the mind, Buddha potential. The faults are dependent on causes and conditions, empty of independent existence. Cause and conditions are delusion and ignorance, which are impermanent, can be eliminated completely. Part of purifying our view of ourselves is to have the mind of contentment, seeing our situation as being just right, nothing missing. Our house, our situation, our age, friends, relationships, see them as positive, a cause for happiness. All our experiences can become a cause for happiness, making us more altruistic, more compassionate, more able to see reality as it is. Every experience takes us closer to enlightenment. Then we can wish ourselves and others well by just repeating the phrases to ourselves. May I and all other beings be happy. May I and all other beings be healthy. And may I and all other beings live in peace and ease. So then we can dedicate any positive imprints on our mind from this practice we've done, or the practice we've done in the past, we'll do in the future. Dedicate to using Lama Zopa's special pandemic dedication. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed from all sickness. May all the sickness, without exception, of transmigrating beings never occur again. Due to the merits of the 3 times collected by me, numberless Buddhas, numberless sentient beings, may all wars or sickness, famine, torture, poverty, and economic problems in the world, and all dangers of earth, water, fire, and wind be pacified immediately. May perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time. May sentient beings in this world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. Dedicating to that. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for being here. Great to see you all, real people and real cushions. Fantastic. Okay, have a great day, great week, and see you next week, same time. Those here and out there. Chris, do you know how to turn it off, the computer?
How you did?
I think it says